Susan McGuire. So, my cell phone died on me the other day. Although, if I'm honest, being without access to my phone for almost 4 hours, I thought I was the one doing the dying. Of course, it wasn't the first time. And while I'm certain it's a battery problem, Apple, on the other hand, keeps telling me in the nicest way possible it's a usage problem. In fact, when I take it to the Apple Store, I don't know if you've had this experience before, they have a way of plugging into my phone and downloading my usage habits to show how many hours a day I spend on it. I get it. It's a fine line, the difference between reliance and addiction. I'm fairly certain I cross it from time to time. And yet, I suspect I'm not alone. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that our phones in and of themselves are a bad thing. While I'm joking that I would die without mine, for Dan Woolley, his phone was literally a matter of life and death. Woolley found himself in the midst of a collapsing city when a massive earthquake hit Haiti in 2011. He was working in a building downtown, and the earth began to shake, and before he knew what happened, he woke up under a pile of rubble, barely able to breathe. He mustered the strength to somehow free himself from the building that had collapsed all around him, only to find he was trapped in this small room by himself, seemingly no escape. After calming himself from those initial moments of panic, he remembered the iPhone in his pocket, which was luckily not damaged by the debris. Immediately, he turned on the light from his phone to unveil his injuries. Then he quickly pulled up his medical app, which helped him diagnose those injuries. Following the app's instruction to stop the bleeding on his legs and head, he then looked up ways to prevent himself from going into shock. Finally, after getting his injuries triaged, he decided to use his camera to take pictures of the surrounding rubble and find a way out of the debris. This eventually allowed him to make his way to an elevator shaft until rescue workers found him some 65 hours later. And speaking to one journalist about his story of survival, Woolley said, "If I'm honest, I owe my life to my phone. Without it, I'd be dead." Perhaps Woolley's story is uncommon, but people's lives being saved by technology is more common these days than you might imagine. Take, for instance, an article I read in the Huffington Post not long ago entitled, "The Internet Saved My Life." It highlights 10 stories in which people's lives are literally spared because of the Internet. Like the woman who is being trampled by one of her horses, which is picked up by a live video stream in her barn and is only rescued because people from Germany, Australia, and the United Kingdom watching called the Charlotte Rescue Squad to save her. Or the German tourist who, while trying to get a picture of a sunset, walked onto a shelf of packed ice off a beach on the North Sea coast. After it became dark, the man couldn't find his way back to the beach and was faced with freezing temperatures. Using his flash on his camera, he began to send out SOS signals. Some local folks picked it up, posted it on Facebook. Several people called the authorities and came and got him before he died of hypothermia. Or the man who saw a woman collapse on a street corner right here in Atlanta not long ago. His cell phone was dying, however, and he didn't think it would make it through to a call from 911, so he quickly tweeted, "Need a paramedic on the corner of John Wesley Dodds and Jackson Street. Woman on the ground unconscious, please retweet." His followers sprang into action, called 911, and paramedics arrived a short time later to transport the woman to the hospital. It's no surprise that technology is capable of doing some pretty amazing things these days. Although, while the results of the examples I give all end somewhat miraculously, the technology used to achieve these results, in the grand scheme of things, well, it's fairly basic. Which is perhaps the most disturbing aspect of technology altogether. Even the most simple forms in one person's hands has a great deal of power, which makes any kind of significant technology in the wrong hands downright terrifying. I've been reminded of this while introducing my son Harrison to the Jurassic Park franchise movies this summer. We're preparing for the upcoming release of the new film. Probably not the best parenting decision of my life. On the one hand, the movies are all good up, thrill-seeking fun, but on the other hand, Jurassic Park, in which virtually everything that Michael Crichton writes, is ultimately a parable on the abuse and misuse of technology. And I can't help but wonder if the story of the Tower of Babel is not the same. Although I'm guessing that's not the interpretation you've most often heard. Now, I suspect you've heard it as a morality tale about humanity's attempt to storm the heavens and replace God, or as a primitive allegory about an insecure deity who's so threatened by human achievement that God needs to wreak havoc on the best laid of human plans, or even simply as a means of explaining the vast multiplicity of human language in the world. Of course, all of these are logical enough conclusions based on a first reading of the text. In fact, perhaps even more believable than understanding it's a warning about the dangers of technology. After all, it was written thousands of years ago. What can an ancient story about brick and mortar teach us about technology today? Well, it turns out quite a bit. Of course, in order to get there, you've got to go back one chapter and learn about Nimrod. And no, I'm not talking about what you called your sibling when he made you mad when you were younger. Now, Nimrod is a mighty warrior, and now the leader of the Babylonian Empire, under whose reign the Tower of Babel has been constructed. And we all know the Babylonians by now. The violent, empire-building people who use any means necessary to crush anything and everyone in their path. Which is the reason building a tower that reaches the heavens is not what really stands out about this story. Every empire wants to have the tallest or largest or grandest or most opulent building, or at the very least, the tallest steeple, right? It's a symbol of your stature, of your power. Now, what stands out as sort of odd in this particular story is that the author makes a point to specifically mention the materials with which this tower is being built. I wonder if you caught it. They said to each other, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly, and bitumen for mortar." In other words, they used brick instead of stone, and tar for mortar. Which in our world seems like a moot point. Of course they use brick. If you ever tried to build something tall with stones, well, it's almost impossible. Stones are round and often smooth and come in all shapes and sizes. It's a hassle to stack them on top of each other. So they didn't build anything all that tall at this time period until now, until brick. That's what this story's about. Someone invented the brick. And if they can invent the brick, well, then what can't they do? Or more importantly, what will they do? And if you don't know where I'm headed with this, you need only turn on the television or read the newspaper. It's at the heart of most of the news stories these days. Meetings with North Korea, interference in election results, looming trade wars. Everyone is worried about who has what technology. After all, while technology in the right hands has the capability of saving lives, technology in the wrong hands, we know, can take them. Which Clint Watts discovered during his time as a former FBI agent who served most notably in the years following 9/11. He recently wrote a book entitled Messing with the Enemy, in which he recounts the early days of discovering the power of social media as it relates to both terrorism and counterterrorism. He says that today social media is both the number one means by which terrorists are recruited and indoctrinated, and simultaneously the number one means by which counterterrorism units interfere, disrupt, and prevent terrorism. In other words, even the most seemingly benign of technologies like social media in the wrong hands has tremendous power. Of course, you don't have to be involved in technological warfare to understand this truth, though. We've all seen plenty of relationships broken as a result of Facebook posts. Had our own feelings hurt with just a few simple characters tweaked. Or even worse, knowing about the growing trend of suicides in our country as a result of cyberbullying. It's no wonder God scatters everyone, confuses them, disrupts them, constructing not only this tower, but the text reads this entire city. Too much technological power in too few hands. Well, that's never a good thing. You may have noticed that Sandy Springs Christian Church has been focusing on some technology upgrades recently. For those of you who subscribe to our newsletter, I hope you had a chance to read my note on Friday. We've got a new look to the website. We've got a YouTube channel to which we're uploading sermons and content and other events. We've got a high-quality video camera to capture these moments. We're trying to utilize Facebook and constant contact in new ways. There's even talk of updating our sound system in the sanctuary. Perhaps those seem like small things, but at least according to the way that I read the story of the Tower of Babel, they still matter to God. After all, we're not always called to use everything in our means, ultimately, to further God's kingdom here on earth. I realize we tend to read the Bible as a book about the past, what happened then, or about the future, what is to come. But what's most important about the Bible is that it's a book about the now. Yes, God cared about how people used technology in the ancient Middle Eastern world, but God also still cares today. Because we are ultimately building this world, creating something, doing something with our minds and our energies and our monies and our technology, which means what we do with fossil fuels and nuclear bombs and poisoned water sources and stem cell research, even social media. Yes, they all matter to God. I realize this may make you feel a little overwhelmed. At least I know at times it makes me feel that way. Such issues are too big and complex for me to fix on my own. But while I don't know much about building, I do know that it's done brick by brick, one at a time. With a social media post or share, or a text message I might send, an email I might forward, or a phone call I might make. Even how much I use technology, how much time I spend on it versus how much time I spend with my family or taking care of myself. Whether we realize it or not, we are all building something. So go back. I invite you to look at your technological footprint. I wonder what you are building. Are you building a city unto yourself? Or are you helping build